She paid her deposit, okay? Then she paid her final payment. Regular day, she could have had a $1 million wedding.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's not what's important to some people. And
Yeah.
so we are there to fill in that gap for those people who don't want to have a $1 million wedding, but they still want something that's nice.
There's a ton of new developments just happening in the event industry. So I am super excited to be talking to my guest today, Jennifer Allen. And the beautiful thing about it is that she has years of experience in the industry. And today we're going to be having a conversation of how to prepare for the future of how things are shifting in the event industry. So I just want to say thank you so very much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was so happy that usually when we met, I feel like 2 years ago at an event for the Deck Network here in
Yes.
Dallas. And usually when I go to those events, there's really never anyone that is in the event industry. So I've always watched like from a distance because you're in weddings and I'm more on the corporate side. But I'm just always wanted to be like, hey, there has to be a reason, a way for us to connect. So I just want to say thank you so very much again for being a yes.
No, I love to talk about all things events and business and just however I can.
So share a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Jennifer Allen. I'm the owner of Just Elope. We are an elopement and micro wedding planning company based here in Dallas. So we plan intimate weddings for couples with up to 50 guests with as little as 24 hours notice. We have all-inclusive packages, which means that a couple chooses a venue, and that venue package comes with the officiant, photographer, and day of coordinator, so that all they have to do is just show up. So we are a ceremony company. We do all the things that happen before you actually eat dinner, because that's really what people don't grasp is that getting married is not expensive.
Yeah.
Feeding people is
Yes,
expensive.
exactly.
And there's like this disconnect there with folks where they don't really grasp that. And so that is the joy of what I get to do.
But I even think the development of, or just the changes in the last 5 years has even grown the whole micro
Oh, yeah.
wedding. And I would love to like just see how that has even just impacted your business with this new shift of everyone's not wanting to do two, three, 400
Yeah.
people. They're wanting to do more of these micro experiences.
So COVID definitely exploded the micro wedding industry, brought a lot more attention to it than it had in the past. I actually started my business in 2017. So once COVID came, it definitely allowed us to be at the forefront and get and capture those brides and grooms because we were already an established brand. But as far as how it's impacted my business, I definitely will say that a lot more venues and planners have started to, quote unquote, pivot into smaller spaces. So it has definitely brought more competition, which I think is great. There are enough brides and grooms out there for everybody. There is no shortage of people getting married. And how they choose to get married, I think for all people, even if you're listening to this and you're considering getting into the industry, I don't ever think anything is oversaturated personally. I hear that often. Oh, the market's oversaturated. There are billions with the B amount of people in the world.
Yeah.
You can get a client.
I even saw a report recently, and it was saying just for events in general,
Mhm.
like how the industry itself, they're expecting how many billions is going to be just in the next 5 years of how things are evolving, not just in weddings, but in corporate and
Yeah.
corporate events and activations and things like that. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. I definitely think that, you can always, as far as weddings go, you can always kind of, if you want to know what the trends are, as far as if it's going to be a busy season, always look at sales reports from ring companies. So when ring companies report, hey, we've seen a decline in the number of rings that are purchased, that means that engagements are down, which means that there's probably going to be a gap in the number of people getting married within that next 18 months.
Okay.
And so that's a good place to kind of, because it's all checks and balances, right? Like
Yeah.
you buy the ring and then you
Yes.
propose and then you plan the event. So kind of work your way backwards to kind of just just stay in the loop of the trends that are going
Yeah.
on, just throughout your industry as a whole. You know, from a corporate perspective, if companies now are cutting back on spending, well, then they probably are cutting back on having parties, having events. My husband works in aviation, and every year they've had, you know, these big blowout events, and this year they're like, we're not having that. And
Yeah.
so that's a corporate contract that
Yep.
somebody would have had that
Yeah.
they're not having this year, just because, you know, anytime, not to get political, but
Right.
anytime there's a changing of the guard, right, whoever
Yes.
becomes new, things are that first year or so are always kind of stagnant. And
Yes.
so because everybody's trying to adjust to what's going on, and you don't know, should I hold my money? Should I spend my money? And so
Yeah.
you definitely see it a lot during a presidential election year,
Yes.
where a lot of times people, companies in general, are kind of a little bit more stricter on
Cautious.
spending. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. So, I guess one of the things I would want to know is that, are you finding that with some of the changes, even if elopements are, or just the ring sales are going down, are you finding that the time frame of turnover is either lengthening or shortening, where I would think that where there's excess, people may already have, let's say, some money saved up, so they're tending to want to have it faster, or are they tending to reach out because they're trying to plan this in 2 years? What do you
No.
find in your case?
So we don't work. So we plan weddings 1 year in advance. So we don't
Okay.
go beyond that. And so if a bride did come to us and say, "Hey, we're getting married in 2017," I'm like, I mean, in 2027, I'm like, "Hey, reach back out to us in 2026,"
Right.
because for the because we partner with venues and we don't own the venues, that gives
Mhm.
us a level of control that we don't have. And so to
True.
plan something 2 years out, to be accountable for a space that maybe may not be there in 2 years. Maybe their lease
Yeah.
is up and they come back in 2026 and say, "Hey, we're stopping, you know, weddings." So those are all the things that we have to consider. Plus, at the price point that we're charging, this is definitely not something that needs to be, in my opinion, dragged out over a 2, 3 year course like you would with a
Yes.
traditional wedding, because
Yeah.
we have packages that are $3,000 that include the venue rental, the photographer, the officiant, and day of coordinator. And so it's like, if you need 3 years for that piece, then there's a higher level of conversation needs to be had about finances,
Yeah.
honestly, because that priority potentially maybe kind of should shift to
Yeah.
where could that money best be served. Because even as a wedding planner, planning intimate weddings, I tell people all the time, having a wedding is a luxury, because technically all you need to do is get a marriage license and get your marriage license signed and turned back to the court. So anything beyond that is something that you want and do not need. And
Yeah.
so when you are dealing, people always want to say, like, you know, the wedding industry, they're charging a wedding tax, they're charging this extra tax. And honestly, it's not even about charging a wedding tax. When you are paying for something that is a luxury, there's always going to be a higher price point to it. And
Yeah.
weddings are just that. I feel like my last girl charged too much money. I'm like, baby, what? Why do you need all that for the lashes? But I'm going,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I have my own lashes.
Yeah.
I got my own eyelashes. So getting her to put some other ones on is a luxury.
Yes. I love that you said it that way, because I don't think that people are present to it. And I find that sometimes what happens is that, one, they're not present to how much things actually cost and
Yes.
the amount of time that is allocated. And we'll even talk about this a little bit later on, about the future of how some of the changes are going to impact our industry, because I don't think a lot of people are present to how our supply costs, and things like that will be impacted, because the majority of
100%.
the things that we use, be it if it's flowers,
Yeah, yeah.
Because even in the corporate space, my Valentine's Day events started looking a little funny
Yeah.
because of the standoff. So one of the things I am curious about for you is what actually got you into this specific niche of
Yeah.
planning?
So I never had any intentions on being a wedding planner or having anything to do with weddings. I am not a girly girl. I am not any of those things. God blessed me with 3 sons because he knew I was not about to be combing nobody's hair. Like, so it just did not even line up to where that was gonna be my life. But my husband, boyfriend at the time, proposed and we got engaged and we decided to get married 5 days. Like within 5 days, he was leaving for deployment.
Wow.
And so we actually ended up getting married the day that he left. And our only options were City Hall, basically.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that was in 2010. I've been married almost 15 years. And so
Congratulations.
thank you. I feel like I was just a child the other day, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I got a whole husband of 15 years and 3 of his
Three
giant
kids.
children. Like, what is happening here?" And a dog. And a dog who my husband threatens to put out every day. I'm like, "Please don't put my dog out. Please don't put my dog out." But oh Lord, he on borrowed time, girl. But it's another story for another day. We keeping my dog though, because God
Yes.
is married to my dog. But we decided, so that was in 2010, and then I decided that I wanted to create a business to where local brides had the option to have something nice without City Hall or Vegas being their only options. Like there
Mm,
has to be something more, right? That can't not be the only thing that people think of when they think of a low planning, lower cost, wanting something nice and not, quote unquote breaking the bank. But it didn't exist at the time. I couldn't find it, because we looked for a company that could marry us on short notice. And between
mm,
trying to piece it together, like find a photographer who say like, okay, well, we only need like 30 minutes, and then
yeah.
trying to find an officiant that can like, and then saying, well, what if we did it at a park? And, what if
Yeah.
do we gotta have a permit? What is that gonna look like? And so Just Elope was created to provide that, to take the guesswork out of what couples needed for their
Mhm.
wedding day. And it has turned into 8 years in business this month. Today's the
Yeah.
last day of February. So, yeah, 8 years in business, over 500 couples married. And we have married NFL players, NFL coaches, influencers, brain surgeons, literally like
Yeah.
our range just goes from one end to the next. Teachers, stay-at-home moms, all of these things. And I realized that our brand is for the couple who wants to put the stress of the wedding planning back onto somebody else. So that
Mm,
all they have to do is just show up. But
yeah.
for me, it's not stressful because we have these ready to go packages. It's like looking at a menu. So when
Yeah.
you are the reason why fast food works and you can franchise it so easily is because this is the recipe. Duplicate this recipe at your store, and we're going to be good because we've already seen that works. And so that's Just Elope. We have a recipe. We duplicate it across our packages, and it works.
And I think that's beautiful because I find that when I talk to people, um, sometimes the biggest thing is that they're trying to reinvent the wheel each
Yes.
and every time. And I'm like, you can't scale that way. I'm like, planning itself can sometimes feel overwhelming depending on the load of clients and things
Uh-huh.
and the seasons that we're in. But if you have to reinvent the wheel each and every time, it makes it extremely hard to move forward or
And
even
expensive.
get. Yeah.
And that's where the price comes in that people don't get because when someone reaches out to me and they want to get married outside of Texas, outside of the Dallas area, outside of the packages that we offer, that price point changes dramatically because
Yeah.
now we're starting from scratch. So to
Yes.
start from scratch is going to now take all this brain power, all this research, hours of the things that you as the client cannot see.
Yeah.
back emailing back and forth, phone calls, follow-ups, all of these things that look like they should just that really don't exist, your
Yes.
time is worth something. And
Yeah.
so the more experience you have with a planner, the more they're going to charge for their time.
Yes.
And so it definitely plays a role, which is why we really kind of stick to what we do because
Yep.
that's what we do best.
I'm sure then it just also helps with building up more trust and rapport with the
Yes.
people, as well as referrals, because like
Yeah.
it's easy for people to refer that they understand,
Yeah.
with clarity, like what you do and what you do not do. So with the event industry always changing, what are some of the biggest trends that you think are going to be impacting or shaping the future of event planning?
I definitely think that hiring a content creator, a behind the scenes content creator, is becoming huge. I see that everywhere now because we live in a society of instant gratification. And
Mm.
so having someone there saying, hey, within 24 hours, you're going to have all of this behind the scenes footage from your wedding day. We're going to create all those TikTok videos that you want to make. We'll tell you what to do, how to stand, all these things. I think that that truly is something that I'm saying that is really kind of like sweeping across the industry, and it's bleeding over into all aspects, not just weddings, but corporate events, business owners who want
Yeah.
somebody there to capture what they're doing. And I think that it's awesome because anytime something is created that provides another source of income for somebody, I'm here for it, baby. Not everybody can work you know, a mirrorless or a big old camera, a professional camera, but they are iPhone fanatics to where they can
Exactly.
yeah, like they can make it happen. And
Yeah.
I love that for them because it's giving people the opportunity to make money. And anytime you can do something to better yourself and take care of yourself and your family, I'm here for it.
And so would you then recommend for people to have relationships with individuals that can execute this? Because I have a feeling
Yes.
some people would hear this and think like, oh, I should learn.
You know what? I'll say this. I think that anything that anybody's interested in, they should try it out because you will be. I think that when you see snippets of what people put online of what a content creator does as far as like that behind the scenes piece, they don't really grasp that wedding days are 12 hours a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so, me personally, one of the reasons why I don't plan big traditional weddings is because I'm not trying to look at nobody for 12 hours that don't belong to me. I'm not. I'm sorry. The people that live here get on my nerve after a little while. Let alone I'm walking around, I'm on my feet, I'm this, that, no, 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 no. So I know, like for me personally, like that would be something that would never be like that's not my route. So
Yeah.
throughout the year, I do take on 2 to 3 um custom micro weddings. So
Mm.
we have one coming up in May, but I charge a good amount as the planner. Even though these people are having 50 guests at their wedding, my current bride, her budget, I mean, is even though she's has 50 guests, she's gonna be to spend 100K
Yeah.
when it's all said and done. And
Yeah.
so I think something that people always associate having a smaller guest count with is a smaller budget, and that's not the case because
Mm.
you allocate your funds towards what you think is important. And if what's important to you is king crab, lobster, and steak for your 50 guests, and and you want a horse, and you want to get a custom dress,
Yeah.
and you want this and you want that and you want that, it doesn't matter. The price because what you spent on food for 50, you probably could have fed 100, but those 100 wouldn't have got steak and
And
king
can
crab.
yeah.
Maybe y'all getting pasta, white sauce, red sauce, and so salad, bread, and tea. That's it. Like that's what you're getting: white sauce, red sauce, salad, bread, and tea. Like that is your meal. put them sugar packets inside of there. That tea still ain't sweet because you cannot sweeten cold tea. I don't know why y'all
It
even
doesn't
passing
work.
out sugar pack. It does not work. The water needs to be hot for it to take.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of those things where I don't consider myself to be an affordable brand. I don't market myself as an affordable option because a 99-cent burger is still expensive to somebody.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that the burger needs to be cheaper. It just means that you don't have 99 cents. So it's not, so I don't ever assume anybody's budget should be, oh, you should be able to afford that. You should be able to do that. Maybe I don't know what y'all do over at your house. I got 3 kids. I'm paying band fees, AAU tournament pricing. I got a 3-year-old. Like, coding camp, like all of these things. So I
Yeah.
would never count anybody else's pockets because I know mine be stretched everywhere you can think of. And
Yeah.
so I just, but we don't market our company as being like, oh, this is affordable. I tell people when somebody posts online, they looking for anything and they use the words affordable, not an arm and a leg, won't break the bank. Don't tag me. Do not tag me, baby, because I don't know how much money your bank got, and I don't know
Yeah.
what's gonna break it.
Yeah.
And do you know how much an arm and a leg costs on the black market? Girl, stop that. A
Yeah.
lot,
But
a
I'm
whole lot.
glad you mentioned that because I think that that can be the assumption that if you're doing micro, that it is expected that, oh, this is cheap. And
Yes,
I think I love that you said what you shared because that doesn't have to equate. Because even if you are doing weddings for a lawyer or doctor, any of those individuals, it's not because it's cheap, it's because that's what they were desiring
correct.
for their thing.
Yeah, we had a wedding on speakerphone, and the bride called and she said, oh, I'm hey Miss Jennifer, I was just calling to tell you I forgot to let you know that my dad is going to walk me down the aisle. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And I said, well, what's his name so I can make sure to ask for him by name, while we getting y'all lined up.
Yeah.
She said, oh, okay, yeah, his name is Jerry. I said, okay, great, write it down. I'm like, okay, I get on the phone with my team. I'm like, all right, so we have the Rice wedding coming up, blah, 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 blah. Like, this what we doing, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. So my husband was like, what was her dad's name? And I said, Jerry. And then he's like, and what's her last name? I said, Rice. He's like, so her dad is Jerry Rice? And I'm like, I mean, yeah. So I continue on what I'm doing. He's like, you mean like NFL Hall of Famer Jerry Rice? And I was like, I guess I don't know. And
Uh,
so he was like, what's her name? I'm like, well, it's Jaquie. And he's like, Jaquie Rice. So he's like
Googling.
he's like, Jennifer, that's Jerry Rice's daughter. And I'm like, all right. Like, so for me, it did not matter because the service that she got was the same as anybody else. I did
Yeah.
not know until the day before her wedding who her father was.
Yeah.
So it didn't it never sways who
Yeah.
and how we treat people. And so, but that say all that to say, she could have her and her husband, her now husband, are the owners of Goat Fuel energy drink.
Mm.
You can get it at 7-Eleven and anywhere else across the world because
Yeah.
their reasoning for wanting to have a small wedding that they did not have to plan was that they were launching a startup and they did not
Mm.
have the time to plan some long, drawn out wedding. They wanted something
Yeah.
nice. They wanted to have everything taken care of so that they didn't have to make any of the decisions. They went to the lady that we recommended for dresses. They went to the
Yeah.
person that we recommended for makeup. They
Yeah.
booked the venue. She paid her deposit. Okay.
Yeah.
Then she paid her final payment. Like regular day. And she could have had $1 million wedding. That's not what's important to some people. So we are there to fill in that gap for those people who don't want to have $1 million wedding, but they still want something that's nice. Yes. Into the big. And this is Lennox.
Okay. So I'm glad that you're able to give some insight on that. With some of the changes, how are you preparing your business to go into the future with some of the changes that we're expected to have in our industry?
You know what? I think one of the biggest things that we are changing rem- is remembering that what got us to this point.
Mhm.
And it's so when the world starts to change around you, I think that we all feel like we need to do something different. But what we're doing isn't broken. And so I want to continue to excel at what we're doing. And what I want to change is just really like ramping up our presence as showcase. I feel like we don't showcase enough how much our clients love what we do. I feel
Yeah,
like that there needs to be more on the back end of us really like digging into and sharing like our reviews. We have over 100 5-star reviews on Google, but how do you putting that over to social media? So people
yeah,
can see putting those reviews on our website is something that we're working on getting that as a plug-in, and just like really building that audience, further establishing that trust from
yeah,
audience members is super super important because we're doing a good thing. It works for
yeah,
people. It works in what we're doing, but just making sure that all the good is reaching the people that it needs to reach.
I love
That's
that.
hard.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's being present to not trying to just shift, because I feel like that's why sometimes people are unable to get to that next level, is
Yeah.
because they always keep looking around and they don't find like it's working, but because you keep shifting so much, it's causing there's a slowdown in the
Yeah.
momentum to hit that next level. So I'd
Yeah.
love for you to share, how can people connect with you and find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so you can find me online at justelope.net. My business Instagram is Just Elope LLC, and my personal is I am Jennifer Allen. I am truly a. It's so funny when I don't. You never really know how people perceive you, right? And so when you meet people in person and they're like, "You're so nice," or "I started following you online and you're so regular," and it's always funny to me because people see like, "Oh, you've been on Netflix. You've done." I saw you on the news or this, that, and the third. And then they start following my personal Instagram and they're like, and you're on here in your robe and your bonnet and you are making your kids breakfast and
Yeah,
y'all are at
yeah,
the aquarium, because I think that that also is something that builds trust with people when they see like you're a regular person just like me, juggling being a mom, being a wife, running a business. And I think that that relatability helps, because I realized a long time ago if I was going to show up consistently online, like I needed to be comfortable showing up in whatever I had on. So if that was my outfit of choice at the house is a robe, if I love a robe, okay, a robe and a bonnet, because this hair gonna be up. I cannot stand hair touching me and all them.
yeah,
So and I'm comfortable with that. I'm like, and
yeah,
this is how I'm showing up online. And if I got something to say, I'm gonna say it. And
yeah,
I think that a lot of people that own businesses really need to kind of lean into their personal branding,
yeah,
because in this day and age where there's so much AI and deep fakes and
mhm,
filters and all of these things, people don't want to constantly be sold to. Like,
yeah,
let me get to know you. I want
yeah,
to see what you doing. I want to be
yeah,
invested in, this lady, she told me, she's like, and the fact that you get up and go to the gym in the morning is just so crazy to me. And you think people aren't even really paying that close of a attention to you. And to this
mhm,
lady messaged me and she's like, I didn't see you post about going to the gym today. And I'm like, okay, I'm going this evening. Let me get up my accountability here. Let me get on up off this couch, because clearly, you have that encouragement
yes,
and it's needed. So I guess my like final piece would be growing a business is great. Being the entrepreneur is awesome. I run my business full time, but it wasn't until June that I started running my business full time. And I've been in business for 8 years. So I've always worked and ran my business. I think that's the social media and society puts us in this situation where they feel like, oh, well, if you want to be a boss, you can't have a boss. You need to quit your job and you need to have faith and you need to get it out the mud. Baby, I'm not trying to get nothing out the mud. Do you hear me? I love a paycheck. I love a W 2. I
Yes.
love 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So if it made sense for my family right now for me to still work full time and run my business full time, I probably would still have a job. It doesn't make sense. My little one is home. And
Yes.
so he'll be in preschool come August. And so I'll revisit the thought of getting a job. Now my husband's not gonna revisit that thought because he's like, girl, you are not going back to work. And he's like, I like the fact that I come home every day. It's stuff in here cooked. The clothes are folded. You done vacuumed. It's all kind of arts and crafts going on in here. Like, he's like, no. He's like, we've been married for almost 15 years. It took me this long to be able to say, like, if you never made another dime, I can fully take care of
Mhm.
us. And he's like, I like it. He's like, he says, I'm a
Good.
domestic
Yeah.
engineer. He's like, I
Mhm.
like domestic engineer Jennifer. He's like, he's
Yeah.
like, she's awesome, and so
Yeah.
he's like, I just want you to run your business and be a mom. Like and I love that for me. Okay.
Yes.
Um, and I love that for him because
Yeah.
he's like, I just love coming home and stuff is cooked. And here comes Lennox because dad just walked out of the door. So, but thank you so much for having me on here today.
No
And this is
problem.
real life, people. This is being a mom, trying to juggle all of the things. My little pockets of window is I say no to a lot of stuff because in this season of yeah. In this season of my life, I don't have a lot of like downtime. And so to do things like this because Mr. Lennox is at home, but I was love your platform. And so thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me. Thank you for having us. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's say bye, Lennox.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, hon. Thank you.